Man, what's going on? It's Lawyer Moves checking in with you. I had to restart it, do it over again. Hold up. I had to start this over. Let's see what we want to do. So, hold on.
We're on Compton right now. We don't have to go west, are we? Did the fire engine or anybody just pass? No, listen, Joe, you gotta go back. You gotta turn around, Jimmy. You're going the wrong way. What the fuck is wrong with y'all, man? What's going on? What you doing? What kind of car is it? I don't know. I don't know what you're on. I got you. I don't know. I'm Beverly right now. Everyone says that's going up. We got 2 weeks. We can't do that. If you want your friend to live, we're going to take it. I can't do that. We're not going to go right now. Yeah, they're going to see us. We're going to see us. Sir, how many people are hurt? There's one shot. Okay, they drove him next to us and they shot us across the country. To the left, man. You hear me, baby?
Doctors will later estimate that Biggie died shortly after being shot. In just 6 months, the music world has lost 2 of its biggest stars to murder, leaving fans to wonder, who shot Tupac and Biggie? It's a question the LAPD will ask Greg Kading and a federal task force to answer nearly a decade later.
Anybody down? I just took a headshot. 911 emergency at 3639. Hi, I just took several shots. How many shots? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a woman screaming? I heard a woman screaming and I heard a car flare off. Pushing is responding to wheelchair paramedics. The victims en route to Brandon Hospital. Suspect vehicles in Aqua Blue Impala. Additional 1030.
In the 1990s, Suge Knight and his LA-based record label, Death Row Records, found themselves at the center of the infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry, pitted against Sean Puffy Combs and his New York-based Bad Boy Records. This showdown between Suge Knight and Puffy Combs would culminate in the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, 2 of the most famous rap artists in the world. There were several key moments that led up to that deadly conclusion. First, in November of 1994, before Tupac was signed to Death Row Records, he was beaten and shot during a robbery at a New York recording studio. By coincidence, Puffy and Biggie were in the same building when the robbery went down, leading Tupac to conclude that his former friends had set him up.
Tupac would eventually find out that Biggie and Puffy didn't have anything to do with setting him up at the Quad Studio. However, by that time, the damage was done. The day after Tupac is shot at the Quad Studios, he's required to show up at the local courthouse because he's facing sexual assault charges from a year before. He ends up getting convicted and then sentenced to prison.
9 months later, in August of 1995, Suge Knight attends the Source Awards in New York City, Puffy's turf. This is Combs on stage, with Puffy sitting in the audience.
Any artist out there want to be an artist, they want to be a star, they won't have to worry about the daily producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records, dances. Tell the Death Row.
A few weeks later, September of 1995, Suge Knight and Puffy Combs wind up at the same nightclub in Atlanta, where confrontation breaks out between their 2 entourages. As Suge is trying to leave, his close friend and bodyguard, Jake Robles, is shot and ultimately dies. Suge blames the shooting on Puffy and his bodyguard, Anthony Wolf Jones. Meanwhile, Tupac has been languishing away in prison for months, unable to come up with the money to post bail while his case is appealed.
This prison, Clinton Correctional Center, was not Club Med. This was for badass convicted felons. And there were rumors that Tupac had actually been raped in prison, and he denied it. But he wanted out of there in a big way. His attorney was appealing it, but appeals take forever. And Suge Knight approached him.
Suge Knight recognizes this business opportunity. He approaches Tupac Shakur, and they cut a deal for him to do 3 records for Death Row in exchange for getting him out of prison on bail.
A lot of people thought that Tupac sold his soul to Death Row Records and to Suge Knight. And Tupac was with a guy who handled business differently than, say, people like Sean Combs. And that is where the thug image really came to be, was when he hooked up with Suge Knight and Death Row Records.
At a Christmas party in December of 1995, an associate of Puffy's named Mark Anthony Bell claims he was taken upstairs and beaten by Suge Knight, Tupac, and other members from Death Row.
According to Mark Anthony Bell's statement to the LAPD and the FBI, Suge Knight was trying to find the whereabouts of Puffy Combs' family residence in Los Angeles. As a result of this incident, it's clear now that Suge Knight is going directly after Puffy.
After signing with Death Row Records in LA, Tupac ramped up the rivalry through his music. Biggie had already released a track called Who Shot Ya, which was widely interpreted as taunting the shooting of Tupac in New York. In retaliation, Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, one of the most infamous diss tracks in rap history, where he bragged about sleeping with Biggie's wife and threatened to kill members of Bad Boy Records.
You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife. Any of you niggas from New York, they wanna bring it. But we ain't singing, we bringing drama. Fuck you and your motherfucking mama. We gonna kill all you motherfuckers. Fuck Biggie, fuck Bad Boy as a staff, record label, and as a motherfucking crew. And if you wanna be down with Bad Boy, then fuck you too. Die slow, motherfucker. My phone make sure all y'all kids don't grow. You motherfuckers can't.
In July of 1996, 7 months after the alleged beating of Puffy's friend in Los Angeles, a group of Southside Crip gang members encounter a group of rivals, the Mob Piru Bloods, at a mall south of LA. The Mob Piru Bloods were associated with Suge Knight, and in their group at the mall is a guy named Trayvon Lane, a close friend of Suge's, and he's wearing a Death Row necklace that Suge Knight only gave out to his inner circle of friends. One of the Southside Crips, a guy named Orlando Anderson, sees this coveted medallion around Trayvon's neck and steals it.
According to at least one confidential informant, Puffy was offering $5,000 to any Crip that could bring him a Death Row medallion.
September 7th, 1996, the day of Tupac Shakur's murder. Tupac and Suge Knight are attending a Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tupac has just recorded a new song for Tyson called Let's Get It On, which is played as Iron Mike enters the ring.
Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, they're sitting ringside in their $1,000 seats. For Tupac Shakur, it can't get any bigger than this. He's the most prominent rap star in the world. His friends, in the ring fighting to a song that he wrote, and Tupac is the center of attention.
During the fight, an FBI witness reported seeing an altercation between Suge and Tupac's entourage and some rival Crip gang members. One of the Crips told Suge Knight that he thought he was untouchable, to which Knight responded that he was untouchable. The Crip responded, "You can be touched." As Suge and Tupac's entourage are leaving the arena after the fight, they're walking through the MGM Grand when they encounter Orlando Anderson, the Crip who had stolen Trayvon Lane's Death Row medallion a couple of months earlier. Trayvon Lane just happens to be with Tupac when they spot Orlando Anderson loitering in the crowd.
Trayvon Lane whispers something into Tupac's ear, and immediately Tupac runs over and attacks Orlando Anderson. The rest of the entourage jump on. It's now just a big gang assault. Unbeknownst to them, the whole thing is being videotaped on MGM surveillance cameras. As the security starts to intervene, they all hightail it out of there. Now you have the most famous rapper in the world. He's all pumped up with the fact he just got into a fist fight. He just watched his friend Mike Tyson knock somebody out, and he's speedily trying to get out of the casino. Suge Knight is closely behind him, this hulking 300-pound, 6'5" individual. Tupac, you can tell, is very pumped up. He's hyped out about what had just happened. As he's making his way out of the casino, he's getting the attention of all these people, and they start following in the crowd. He creates somewhat of a human vacuum, and this large crowd begins to follow him out of the casino.
Afterwards, Tupac returns to his hotel, where he meets up with his girlfriend, Kidada Jones, who's the daughter of music producer Quincy Jones, and the sister of actress Rashida Jones. Tupac explains what just happened in his fight with Orlando Anderson, that he doesn't want Kidada coming out with them because it's too dangerous, so she decides to stay behind in the hotel. Tupac was not a real gangster, but he's just started a fight with a member of the South Side Crips. It's potentially a fatal mistake.
Tupac and Suge decide to drive together that night in a 750 black BMW, putting the security personnel in separate cars, in anticipation of going to the 662 Club, which is Suge's Las Vegas nightclub, where there's going to be a charity event. Tupac is supposed to perform, and they've got this big night planned ahead of them.
Everybody and their brother knew that he was going to be there. It's advertised on the radio station and everything else, flyers everywhere.
Even Mike Tyson is supposed to make an appearance at the club to watch Tupac perform.
The entourage following Tupac and Suge will consist of at least 6 vehicles. As their caravan is making its way towards the 662 Club on these busy Las Vegas streets, Suge Knight has his music blasting. Tupac is in the passenger seat. They're having a great time, making the best out of the heavy traffic. Suge Knight is ultimately pulled over by Las Vegas police for having his music too loud. During that moment, some girls who were in Vegas for the weekend recognized Suge standing outside of his car. They decided to join the caravan.
Like, they're Suge. And the police were going through a car or something or another. And then the traffic was stopped, and then they got in the car.
Did you see who was in Suge?
I thought it was Tupac. And he was like, come on, come go with us. We want to get this too.
As Suge is pulling away, the girls fall in behind him, cutting off his security.
And these guys pulled up and was like, let us in front of you. Going to that security, you have to let them in front.
The caravan continues down Las Vegas Boulevard until they reach Flamingo, where they turn toward the club.
We were kind of arguing about it because I was like, we're in this big entourage with all these people, and I was like, this isn't really us. We're not entourage with groupie kind of girls.
It's not our scene.
It's not our scene at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we'll go. I know where the club is at. We'll go
check it out.
As they reach the intersection of Flamingo and Koval, the girls decide to get out of the caravan to go to the club ahead of them. They come to a stop just in front and to the right of Suge's car.
And as soon as we pulled past him, that's when all hell broke loose.
A white, newer model 4-door Cadillac eases up alongside Suge's BMW, just outside of where Tupac is seated.
A male in the back of the Cadillac leans across and discharges a firearm 9 times, hitting Tupac with 4. The girls who are stopped just in front to the right of Suge hear the shots ring out.
I remember it was a white Cadillac. And the one like, that was Tupac. That was Tupac. No, we got shot. No, we got shot.
Instinctively, they try to pull away from the situation. As they're doing that, the white Cadillac is also lunging forward. The 2 vehicles almost collide, and both vehicles then make a right onto Koval. Frank Alexander, Tupac's bodyguard, jumps out of the vehicle that he is in and runs up to try to render aid. Suge immediately pulls away and does a U-turn, effectively leaving Frank Alexander standing there alone in the middle of the street. As he's leaving the location, he hits a median, blows out a couple of tires, and ultimately comes to a stop down on Las Vegas Boulevard. Two members of the mob Piru, who are also in that caravan, they attempt to chase down the white Cadillac. Gunfire is exchanged between those two cars until the white Cadillac gets away.
Tupac is then transported to a local hospital, where he'll fight for his life for the next 6 days. Throughout the week, crowds are showing up at the hospital, hoping to hear about Tupac's condition. Some notables include Reverend Al Sharpton, rapper MC Hammer, and Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur.
Also amongst these people is an off-duty Compton school police officer from Los Angeles named Kevin Hackey, who worked for Death Row's Right-Way Security. He creates such a scene at the hospital, claiming to be an FBI agent there to investigate the case. He is ultimately escorted out and banned from the location. Hackey would play a major role in several of the big conspiracy theories, with various claims about what he'd seen and what he'd heard. But when he was ultimately asked to testify, he was deemed unreliable, claiming memory loss and other issues.
On September 13th, 1996, Tupac Amaru Shakur succumbed to his injuries and passed away. People would immediately theorize that Tupac had been shot by Orlando Anderson, the Crip he got into a fight with just 2 hours before he was shot. But with Suge and his friends refusing to cooperate, Las Vegas police couldn't build a case. For Suge Knight, the loss of Tupac is devastating. Not only has he lost yet another close personal friend to murder, he's also lost one of his biggest moneymakers. Adding insult to injury, Suge finds himself with a parole violation for his involvement in the fight with Orlando Anderson and is sent back to prison for the next 5 years. The day after Tupac died, September 14th, 1996, the mob Piru Bloods, who are associated with Suge Knight, meet at a park in Compton called Looters Park. They discuss the murder of Tupac in Vegas and the potential involvement of rival Southside Crip gang members like Orlando Anderson. As a result, the mob Piru Bloods give the green light against the Southside Crips. A gang war has now ensued on the streets of Los Angeles as a result of Tupac Shakur's murder.
Within months after Tupac's death, Biggie Smalls and his junior mafia entourage began coming back to California to shoot video and to produce his album. Now security is less of a concern. Tupac is dead, Suge Knight is in jail. They get a false sense of security. They don't realize they're coming back to a hornet's nest.
On March 7th of 1997, Biggie and Puffy attend the Soul Train Music Awards in Los Angeles to present the award for Best Female R&B Soul Single. Driving home the volatile atmosphere in LA, they are met with a rowdy mix of cheering and booing, with shouts of West Side.
What's up, Callie?
Backstage at this same event, there's a minor confrontation between members of the Bad Boy Security Detail and members of the Fruit of Islam. Apparently the conversation goes something to the effect of, hey, you're disrespecting the brothers in the East, in reference to Bad Boy Records. Puffy Combs, who's also present, looks over at Mustafa Farrakhan, the son of Luis Farrakhan, and says, hey, we're cool, right? And Mustafa Farrakhan quells the incident.
The following day will be Biggie's last day alive. He has a phone conversation with his mother, Willetta. She expresses concern about his security in Los Angeles, but he comforts her by saying that he has LA cops protecting him. That night, Biggie and Puffy head to a party at the Peterson Auto Museum, put on by Vibe magazine. The party at the Peterson will eventually grow out of control. Twice as many people show up as expected, with only about 10 security guards on site. Plus, there are numerous celebrities there, like Missy Elliott, Vivica Fox, Chris Tucker, the Wayans brothers, Whitney Houston, NBA stars, and of course, Puffy and Biggie. As all the people who weren't able to get in begin to crowd outside the main entrance, things start to get rowdy. Among them are known gang members. Inside the party, they repeatedly play Biggie's new hit, Hypnotize. Just like Tupac in Vegas, Biggie is on top of the world. At approximately 11 p.m., the on-site fire marshal puts in a call to have the LAPD respond as the crowd is too big and the people stuck outside are getting out of control. Near midnight, the fire marshal finally shuts the party down. After being there for nearly 4 hours, Puffy and Biggie are ready to go anyway. However, it would take them nearly 40 more minutes to get to their vehicles.
911 emergency, 3412.
Hi, 52 next door. We have an inspector on scene there, I guess with an overcrowding. Wilshire and Fairfax, the Peterson Museum. They got shots fired there. I see my friends and everything.
At approximately 12:05 a.m., witnesses report gunshots fired at the corner of 8th and Orange Grove, which is the southeast corner of the Peterson Auto Museum. They would provide a license plate and a description of a black Ford Bronco fleeing the area.
Many would later believe that this was part of a diversion in the conspiracy to kill Biggie Smalls.
Approximately half an hour later, Biggie and Puffy are finally outside and ready to go. One member of the entourage notices a suspicious person across the parking lot is mad-dogging them, staring them down. While waiting for their vehicles to be brought around, Puffy's bodyguard, Eugene Deal, who would become a key witness in the case, notices another suspicious-looking individual.
I'm in the garage. I come out. He left the street right at the sidewalk with sidewalk to get right there. I turn that corner. He's right there. I seen this guy. That's like the Nation of Islam. He had a blue suit on. White shirt, blue bow tie. Black guy? Black guy.
Just prior to pulling away, Biggie's sitting in the front seat speaking to his friend, Damian Butler, standing just outside the window. They're elated. Damian's bragging, "We're back, Biggie, we're back." Biggie's last words, "We'll see you at the next party." In the entourage were 3 SUVs. In the first one, a green Suburban, Puffy Combs was in the front passenger seat. In the back were 3 bodyguards, including Eugene Deal. The second SUV, another green Suburban, was being driven by Gregory G. Money Young. Biggie was in the front passenger seat, and in the back was his cousin, Little C's, and 2 others. The third and last SUV was a black Chevy Blazer. It was driven by an Inglewood School police officer named Reggie Blaylock. In the passenger seat was Bad Boy and his security, Paul Alford. As the first SUV with Puffy is pulling away, they're looking over their shoulders, waiting for Biggie to finish loading into his Suburban. Meanwhile, the third SUV is in the street behind Biggie, blocking traffic so he can pull out. As Biggie is ready to go, Puffy's vehicle accelerates northbound to make the light at Wilshire. Biggie's vehicle is attempting to catch up, and the security team in the third vehicle is jumping into their Blazer. At that moment, a white SUV pulls in front of the third SUV, momentarily cutting off security from Biggie's vehicle in front of them. The driver of the third SUV lunges his vehicle forward, cutting the white SUV out of the caravan. A lot of people would later theorize that the white SUV was involved in the shooting. As this is happening, a dark, newer model Chevy Impala pulls up beside Biggie's vehicle. The driver begins firing into Biggie's door. The shooter was described as an African-American male. He was seen holding a semi-automatic pistol across his body with his left hand on the steering wheel. After firing his weapon, the shooter makes a quick right onto Wilshire Boulevard. The security team in the Blazer attempts to give chase, but the Impala gets away. Meanwhile, Biggie's vehicle has come to a stop, and Puffy's vehicle has made a U-turn and rushed back to see what has happened. Puffy runs to Biggie's door and recognizes that Biggie's been shot. He opens the door, but Biggie's unresponsive. It takes the entourage about 5 minutes to get to Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Beverly Hills. At approximately 1:15 a.m., doctors notify Puffy Combs and Faith Evans that Biggie Smalls is dead.
The autopsy report revealed that he had been shot 4 times. The fatal shot had entered his torso and traveled in an upward trajectory, hitting his heart and his lung. Doctors would conclude that Biggie Smalls likely died moments after being shot.
The next morning, the world awakens to the news of Biggie's murder. Conspiracy theories run wild, with people naturally connecting Biggie's murder to Tupac's just 6 months earlier. On March 18th of 1997, a massive funeral was held in New York. Fans lined the streets as a procession traveled through his Brooklyn neighborhood. Puffy would give the eulogy, and Faith Evans would sing. 1 week later, Biggie's Life After Death album is released. It'll be nominated for over 3 Grammys and sell over 10 million copies in the United States. Biggie's murder was originally investigated by a detective named Kelly Cooper. However, the case was eventually transferred to a new team of investigators that included a detective named Russell Poole. When they inherited the case, the department was about to be hit by one of the biggest police corruption scandals in LAPD history, in the form of the Rampart scandal. And this was just 5 years after the Rodney King riots. It was in this atmosphere that Russell Poole would develop a theory that dirty LA cops working for Suge Knight had murdered Biggie Smalls. Specifically, this theory pointed a finger at an officer named David Mack and his friend Amir Muhammad. After Poole fails to find support for his theory from the LAPD, he suspects that there's a cover-up.
Eventually, Russell Poole was transferred off of the case, further adding to his suspicions of a massive cover-up. In 1999, he'll resign from the force. However, Russell Poole would collaborate with author Randall Sullivan and help to write the book Labyrinth. He also appeared in the documentary Biggie and Tupac.
Because of these two projects, Poole's theory about dirty cops killing Biggie would become widely accepted by the general public. Based on his theory, Biggie's mother and his estate file a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles.
The wrongful death lawsuit would wind its way through the courts for years. At one pre-trial hearing, a judge indicated that if the LA City were to lose the lawsuit, the damages could be as much as $400 million, which was Biggie Smalls' estimated lifetime earning value. With a $400 million lawsuit looming over their head, they now need to solve this case. On May 1st, 2006, I received a phone call from Robbery Homicide Division. I'm asked to join a new task force looking into the 9-year-old cold case murder investigation of Christopher Wallace. I spent the vast majority of my career as a gang investigator. I was a court-qualified gang expert. I was assigned to our major narcotics unit. I was a member of a DEA task force where I was cross-designated as a federal agent. I was also a homicide investigator and investigated over 200 cold cases. The majority of my time and the majority of the investigations I was involved in all took place in the south central region of Los Angeles.
The task force's first job was to get the case files back from Internal Affairs. It was 92 4-inch binders, a massive amount of investigative material, encompassing Russell Poole's investigation, plus all the work done before him, and in the 9 years since.
A lot of good investigative work had been done by these previous detectives. They had composites, they had vehicle descriptions, they had done dozens and dozens of witness interviews. There was a lot to build the case on.
They decided to federalize the case, forming a task force that included agencies like the FBI and the DEA. This kept it from being an LAPD-only investigation, gave them more resources, and allowed them to pursue suspects who were gang-affiliated using federal RICO laws to compel them to talk. They looked into Russell Poole's theory that Officer David Mack and Amir Muhammad had murdered Biggie Smalls. However, his theory would be quickly dismissed. Poole's theory started with rumors that Death Row Records was hiring LA cops as security, and was reinforced by 2 major incidents involving LA police officers. The first incident was a shooting that Russell Poole investigated before joining the Biggie murder case. On March 18th of 1997, an off-duty LAPD officer named Kevin Gaines was shot and killed by an undercover LAPD officer after a road rage incident that Gaines had instigated. While investigating the shooting, Russell Poole found out information about Gaines' personal life that seemed to connect him to Suge Knight and Death Row Records. Gaines was dating Suge Knight's estranged wife and was driving her car when he was killed. He also frequented a steakhouse that was a suspected death row hangout. This seemed to reinforce the rumors that LA cops were connected to Death Row Records. The other incident that backed this theory was a bank robbery committed by an LAPD cop named David Mack. In December of 1997, Mack was arrested for robbing a bank near the USC campus a month earlier, which had netted him $722,000.
A subsequent search of David Mack's house revealed that he had a makeshift shrine to Tupac Shakur. He also drove a black Chevy Impala. A photograph was found where David Mack is wearing a red crimson suit, indicative of the Bloods gang.
So far, this evidence against Mack was circumstantial, but when the task force got to the hard evidence, things started to fall apart.
First, when the FBI raided David Mack's house after the bank robbery, they supposedly found Gecko ammunition. Gecko ammunition was used to kill Biggie Smalls, and there was an FBI report claiming that this ammunition was very rare. However, the FBI report got it wrong because they only focused on wholesale dealers, of which there were only 2 in the United States. But at the retail level, there were over 24 stores in Southern California that sold this ammunition. Half of them were in the LA area. More importantly, the ammunition seemed to be very popular with gangs in South Central Los Angeles, turning up multiple times in raids on gang members' houses. The next major clue in Russell Poole's theory was the connection to David Mack's alleged accomplice, Amir Muhammad.
Within weeks of Biggie's murder, a jailhouse informant named Michael Psycho Mike Robinson had told police that Biggie's shooter's name was either Kenny, Kiki, Abraham, Ashmir, or Amir.
True name is Abraham. His name is okay. He told me yesterday the name of Ashmir. Amir. Ashmir or Amir. So Amir, man.
While David Mack was in custody, he received a visitor. The individual that signed in on the visitor's form used the name Amir Muhammad.
Russell Poole would conclude that this was the same Amir that Robinson had told him about. Amir's non-Muslim name is Harry Billups, and he had used a fake social security number when he signed into the jail's visitor log, which seems suspicious. However, when he was interviewed by the police and the Biggie Estate's attorneys, he had a very simple explanation.
His explanation was that he was aware that inmates and other people would be able to view or access that log, and he didn't want his identity stolen. The book Labyrinth claims that Amir had also put down a fake home address and an out-of-service telephone number. However, the address on the form matched the one on his driver's license, and there was not even a place on the form for a telephone number, so he hadn't even listed one. We also saw that he had listed his correct driver's license number and his birth date. So if he's trying to hide his identity, why does he use his correct address, his correct driver's license number, and his correct birth date? This hardly sounds like a professional killer.
Next, they went back and looked at Michael Robinson, the informant who had given up the name Amir in the first place.
Labyrinth in the Biggie and Tupac documentary had only told people that Robinson had given the name Amir. What they had failed to mention was that Robinson had given a ton of other information about who this Amir was, but none of that information matched Amir Muhammad, aka Harry Billups.
So he frequents 83rd Street? Yeah. In Compton? Yeah. Do you know what kind of car this is Amir drives? Why stretch memo? Bodyguard.
Harry Billups had no gang affiliation, was a college-educated mortgage broker, and lived in San Diego. He was not a Crip bodyguard rolling around in the city of Compton in a stretch white limousine. Robinson also admitted that he was in jail at the time that Biggie Smalls was killed, and that he had gathered his information from other jailhouse informants and from people on the outside. He also admitted that he didn't even know where Biggie had been killed, and that he thought Biggie had been killed with a machine gun. The only thing that Robinson said that matched Harry Billups was the name Amir. Everything else he said was just ignored in order to keep the Poole theory alive. Michael Robinson had also picked Amir Muhammad out of a photo lineup, but he picked 2 other people out as well, so he had circled half his options.
You have to understand something. During the first 3 or 4 days of this case, we were getting phone calls for all kind of inmates who had all the answers to everything. They witnessed all the days in prison. They knew everything.
Now, there was very far-fetched information coming in that Oprah had Tupac killed, and Jay-Z had Biggie killed and Tupac killed Biggie.
I don't think the informers, the inmates, or whatever, they got access to the media. And a big case like this, everybody's watching this. So when my lieutenant get out there and talk about the bullets, the type of car, what the guy looked like, all you doing is telling even everybody in the world, instead of including inmates, hey, this is what we have. So now you have to run over there and interview this inmate who just got the information from the media. So you run in circles. But once you realize what he said is garbage, it's garbage. Just let it go. You don't pursue garbage. You're wasting your time.
Based on this limited information, the LA Times had published an article that named Amir Muhammad, aka Harry Billups, as a suspect in the murder of Biggie Smalls. However, 5 months later, they had to print a retraction after the LAPD told them that he was not a suspect, that their story was based on an old theory. Billups tells the LA Times, "I'm not a murderer, I'm a mortgage broker."
Complicating things more, Eugene Deal, Puffy's bodyguard the night that Biggie was shot, identified Harry Billups in a six-pack lineup.
However, Eugene Deal didn't make this identification until 2001. By this time, Billups' name and photo had already been featured in the LA Times twice, making Deal's IDing of him completely tainted.
On top of that, Eugene Deal had been shown a different photograph lineup years earlier and picked out an entirely different individual. The icing on the cake was when the FBI took this informant, Michael Robinson, down to San Diego to set up an encounter with Harry Billups. Of course, the whole thing went sideways when the informant knocked on the door, and neither did he recognize Harry Billups, nor did Harry Billups recognize him, and it just led to this very awkward situation.
You from LA?
You ain't gonna tell me what you're looking for. You need to leave.
So based on the stranger standing on his front porch acting very nervous, Harry Billups himself called the police.
Ultimately, years later, Robinson recanted his statement. The LA Times even ran a story about it, where Robinson and another informant admitted that the information they had given was based on hearsay, that they had contradicted their own stories.
In conclusion, the theory that this mortgage broker was moonlighting as a South Side Crip hitman was beyond nonsense and almost ruined the man's life.
The last of the major cornerstones of Poole's theory was the fact that David Mack owned a black Impala, and they knew that Biggie's killer had driven a dark-colored Impala.
There were two witnesses that identified the Impala as being black, but they were not close-up witnesses. Reggie Blaylock, who was part of the security personnel, was in the trail vehicle, the last vehicle in the caravan. He believed the car was black. And also there was a bus driver who seen the vehicle fleeing the scene, and he is looking in his rearview mirror. But keep in mind, these are dark at-night conditions. However, the witnesses that were in the best position to see the car were adamant that the vehicle was greenish in color, not black.
Green car rolled up on the side of Biggie's side and started shooting. Came to the door.
You describe a car as a green car.
Yeah.
Okay, could have been dark, I say a dark car. Dark green.
Car. I can't tell the name, but it was just a dark green four-door car. I know it was a four-door.
So the fact that David Mack owned a black Impala was relatively meaningless because it was the wrong color.
It's also important to note that when Mack committed the bank robbery, he and his accomplices used the van stolen from near LAX as their getaway vehicle before Mack switched to his own car to drive home.
Now, if David Mack is not willing to use his own vehicle in the bank robbery, it stands to reason that he's smart enough not to use that same vehicle in the assassination of a celebrity on a crowded street outside of a party with hundreds of witnesses. In the mid-1990s, Chevy Impalas were extremely popular in Los Angeles. In fact, they were so As it turns out, it was determined that incident was completely unrelated to the murder of Biggie Smalls. What had actually happened was the occupants of the black Bronco, as they were entering the car, the driver dropped the handgun onto the ground. As he picked it up, he thought it would be a good idea to shoot it into the air to ensure that it was still working. Considering the enormous crowds that were nearby, this obviously created chaos, not to mention several 911 calls from the neighbors. Later on that evening, the same guy in the black Bronco decides that he's going to drive around. Of course, at this time, there's a crime scene investigation related to Biggie's shooting. He wants to know what happened, so as he pulls up, the officer at scene recognizes this black Bronco from the 911 calls and arrests the driver.
He came back to the scene. He had the gun in the car. We took everything. So you're gonna kill a big celebrity, and then you're going to leave the scene, come back to the police station, bring the gun with you. I mean, come on, he's not going to prison. He's going to an insane place. So he's crazy.
Hello. How you
So as
doing?
far as their
What's
involvement
going
in the
on?
conspiracy, we knew who these guys were. They were arrested, and it was ultimately determined they had nothing to do with anything other than their own stupidity.
There was one more piece of evidence that played a major role in the various Biggie murder theories, and that was the composite sketch of the shooter. There are actually two sketches, both created with input from Biggie's driver, Gregory G. Money Young, and Biggie's cousin, Little C's, who was in the back seat during the shooting. Unfortunately, these two witnesses weren't sure about what
Hello.
they had actually seen.
Let's see what's going on.
Everybody was in, jumped down. Okay, so when you came back up after dusting down, the car was gone. The car was gone. Okay.
And then they would say, okay, I know you didn't see anything, but was it nose like this big, or was it like that big? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. So did they show you the sketch after it was done? Yeah. Okay. That sketch was like the person we saw.
You got a call.
I was like,
Okay.
color picture person right now. I'm giving you what I see. And what I see was not a person's face. That if you put it up right here too, I'll be able to say that's your house. He said another one, and I was like, man, I'm telling y'all, it's like I see this sketch and that sketch, and it's like two different sketches. Right?
They didn't look alike. So now you got two composites of one suspect. If I'm doing a case, I always think ahead.
I got a call. What that mean?
For instance, now you come up with two
Hello.
composites for two different witnesses. The credibility as far as jury, they're not sure. You're not sure. If you're not sure, then you can have some problems to get a conviction on that case.
That bears mentioning that in 1998, both Little C's and G-Money, Gregory Young, were shown a six-pack photo lineup, where one of the photographs in that lineup was of Harry Billups and Amir Muhammad, and neither of them identified Harry Billups as the suspect. The only thing that the witnesses seemed to be sure of was that the guy appeared to look like a Muslim. You even hear this on the 911 call from Biggie's car.
Yo, Duke is like he was Muslim, kid. He had to dressed like that, man. Sir, you still saying it?
This led Eugene Deal to conclude that it must have been the same guy he saw standing at the garage when they were loading up to leave.
I heard Lil C said the guy was dressed like the Nation of Islam. And I said, oh, the kid with the blue suit on, he had a blue suit, white shirt with a blue and green top? He said, yeah. I said, that nigga came directly toward us, man. He had a white handkerchief in his hand.
However, Eugene Deal could only speculate because he never saw the shooter behind the wheel.
Could you, from where you were seeing, see who that was in the car? Okay.
Could.
Moving forward with their investigation, the task force identified 5 new potential witnesses that they believed had information about the murders of Biggie and Tupac.
One of them was Orlando Anderson, the individual that Tupac had jumped in Las Vegas just before his murder. Unfortunately, though, Anderson had been dead for nearly 8 years.
The next guy on the list was Trayvon Lane, a death row employee who was with Tupac right before he attacked Orlando Anderson. It is widely believed that Tupac's assault on Orlando Anderson was in retaliation for Orlando beating up Trayvon earlier that summer. Unfortunately, the interview with Trayvon went nowhere. He maintained a street code, which meant not cooperating with police.
Next, we interviewed Michael Little Al DeRoe, a Southside Crip and friend of Orlando Anderson's.
On the day that Anderson was killed, he and Michael DeRoe confronted 2 men at a car wash in Compton concerning a debt. The confrontation escalated into a shooting, during which Orlando Anderson and the 2 men were killed. As the sole survivor, Michael DeRoe was convicted for all 3 murders and was now serving a life sentence in Pelican Bay State Prison.
When we interviewed Michael Giroux in Pelican Bay Prison, he told us that Suge Knight had hired the Southside Crips to kill Biggie Smalls. However, when we started monitoring Michael Giroux's mail and phone calls from prison, we discovered that he was scheming with his cousin to provide this fake story to the police in hopes that he would be moved out of Pelican Bay into a lesser secure prison.
Another guy on the list of potential witnesses was an alleged Southside Crip named Corey Edwards, who was known to have been in Las Vegas when Tupac was shot, and who was at the next party that Biggie was heading to when he was shot.
Biggie was having an after party, after the bride party, at a mansion in Hollywood, North Indy. And we just went straight up to the mansion.
The task force had trouble finding Edwards because he had been on the run for 5 years after a drug indictment out of Ohio. Through their own efforts, the task force located Edwards and arrested him. Unfortunately, he decided to take his chances with the drug charges rather than cooperate.
The last name on our short list of witnesses was Dwayne Keefe D. Davis.
Keefe D was a shot caller for the Southside Crips and the uncle of Orlando Anderson. It was determined that Keefe D had been in Las Vegas along with his nephew, Orlando, the night Tupac was shot. Additionally, Keefe D's name had come up in the original Biggie investigation when it was discovered that he was at the party at the Peterson and he had access to a Chevy Impala.
After Tupac was shot, there was rumors on the street that Bad Boy Records owed the Southside Crips $1 million. Some thought the debt was for concert security, while others believed it was for the hit on Tupac. In fact, I believe that when Michael Robinson gave the name Amir and also identified the shooter as Kenny or Kiki, he was meaning to say Keefe as Keefe D and repeating the rumor that the Southside Crips had killed Biggie.
As a result of this $1 million rumor, Keefe D had been interviewed by the Biggie murder investigators back in 1997.
The reason why I asked, we're trying to identify everybody who's there so we can interview, see if we can't find out some more information about this.
Well, you only said the truth within block up the wrong because they're wasting a lot of that spirit money.
11 years later, we still believe that Keefe D was an enormous person of interest who could break the case wide open. Our first run at Keefe failed. He immediately lawyered up, and we realized we needed to find a way to compel him to cooperate. Because the case had been federalized, we became aware that the DEA was already investigating Keefe D and other Southside Crips for interstate narcotics trafficking. We used this information against one of Keefe D's drug couriers in order to convince him to flip against Keefe D. We then used that drug courier to set up Keefe D in a big drug sting involving cocaine and PCP. The operation took months. It involved wiretaps, surveillance, and undercover narcotic buys to ensure that we had an ironclad case with a life sentence that we could hold over Keefe D's head. So with this, we went to Keefe's house and confronted him with the evidence that we had built against him. Later that day, Keefe and his attorney met with us at the U.S. Attorney's Office in downtown Los Angeles. Keefe D has a serious dilemma on his hands. He either comes clean about what he knows about the murder of Biggie Smalls, or he goes to prison for the rest of his life. Now, our drug investigation of Keefe D didn't stop with Keefe D. There were several of his close associates. In fact, there were close family members of his who got caught up in this investigation. So Keefe D's decision to cooperate wasn't just to save himself. He was trying to save his family. Keefe agrees to cooperate with the government and that it will be a proper session in which nothing that he tells us can be used against him unless we find out that he's deliberately lied to us. At our next meeting with Keefe, we explained to him that we needed to know everything he knew about the murder of Biggie Smalls. Keefe D began by telling us that on the day that Biggie was killed, Puffy had invited him to the vibe party at the Peterson Auto Museum after they had attended a celebrity basketball tournament earlier in the day. So Keefe and some members of his crew attended the party.
Uh-oh. So he said something about Puffy. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
That he was at the party at the Peterson and he had access to a Chevy Impala.
After Tupac was shot, there was rumors on the street that Bad Boy Records owed the Southside Crips $1 million. Some thought the debt was for concert security, while others believed it was for the hit on Tupac. In fact, I believe that when Michael Robinson gave the name Amir and also identified the shooter as Kenny or Kiki, he was meaning to say Keefy as Keefy D, and repeating the rumor that the Southside Crips had killed Biggie.
As a result of this $1 million rumor, Keefy D had been interviewed by the Biggie murder investigators back in 1997.
The reason why I asked, we're trying to identify everybody who's there so we can interview and see if we can't find out some more information about this.
Well, you only said the truth within what was wrong for this. That wasting a lot of that spirit money.
11 years later, we still believe that Keefy D was an enormous person of interest who could break the case wide open. Our first run at Keefy failed. He immediately lawyered up, and we realized we needed to find a way to compel him to cooperate. Because the case had been federalized, we became aware that the DEA was already investigating Keefy D and other Southside Crips for interstate narcotics trafficking. We used this information against one of Keefy D's drug couriers in order to convince him to flip against Keefy D. We then used that drug courier to set up Keefy D in a big drug sting involving cocaine and PCP. The operation took months. It involved wiretaps, surveillance, and undercover narcotic buys to ensure that we had an ironclad case with a life sentence that we could hold over Keefy D's head. So with this, we went to Keefy's house and confronted him with the evidence that we had built against him. Later that day, Keefy and his attorney met with us at the U.S. Attorney's Office in downtown Los Angeles. Keefy D has a serious dilemma on his hands. He either comes clean about what he knows about the murder of Biggie Smalls, or he goes to prison for the rest of his life. Now, our drug investigation of Keefy D didn't stop with Keefy D. There were several of his close associates. In fact, there were close family members of his who got caught up in this investigation. So Keefy D's decision to cooperate wasn't just to save himself. He was trying to save his family. Keefy agrees to cooperate with the government, and that it will be a proper session in which nothing that he tells us can be used against him unless we find out that he's deliberately lied to us. At our next meeting with Keefy, we explained to him that we needed to know everything he knew about the murder of Biggie Smalls. Keefy D began by telling us that on the day that Biggie was killed, Puffy had invited him to the vibe party at the Peterson Auto Museum after they had attended a celebrity basketball tournament earlier in the day. So Keefy and some members of his crew attended the party. This claim was backed by Keefy's friend, Corey Edwards.
But you did have some friends that did go to the live party.
Yeah, I heard some friends of mine was there.
And who was that?
Like I was saying, I heard Keith O'Win and was before.
Keefy D.
While inside the party, Keefy said that he had approached Biggie and Puffy's table.
Did you see Biggie there or Puffy there? Did you know Puffy from this?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Did you see it at the party?
So you want to guess on
Did you talk a little bit? What did you guys talk about? I mean, you met before, right?
he said, how you doing? Yeah, you know.
Little Cease confirmed that he had seen Keefy D and several of the other Southside Crips at the Peterson. He sees them walking up towards Biggie when the security intervenes, but Biggie waves them off saying, hey, I know these guys, they're cool. Specifically Keefy D, let him through.
Where did these guys from Compton approach you and ask you for if you want to provide
Security at that place.
at the party?
Yeah.
At the museum?
Yeah.
Did he approach Big?
Yeah.
Did you talk to him? About what?
He didn't talk to him, but he came and set us up to do it.
Oh, yeah?
Because he walked over there with me when we did it.
What was the big response?
So what's up? Smack hands. So what's up?
Puffy's bodyguard, Eugene Deal, had also confirmed that the guys who he referred to as the guys from Compton had approached them at the party.
So we're sitting around the party. You know, the guys in Compton still in there. They come over.
What did they say? Did they come over and speak to you guys?
Yeah.
Speak to Puffy and
Not speak to them, just like, yo, what's up, what's happening? Yo, y'all want some? Nah, you know, like that. Y'all want some of this bottle? Like that. Nah, you know. All right, man, cool. You know.
like that. This, among other things, establishes what Keefe D is already telling us, is that he knows these guys on a personal level and can approach them at any time. Keefe offers Combs extra security at that point, but Combs rejects, telling Keefe, hey, the feds are all over me, obviously not wanting to be seen publicly with these gang members.
He said the FBI is all over me, man. I don't want you guys catching my heat. Stay away from me. That shit. Sean, oh, yeah.
Combs said the FBI is all over me.
Yeah.
Keefe D warns Puffy about the presence of death row personnel and blood gang members at the party.
Keefe D's instincts are telling him that something's about to go down. And a short time later, Biggie is killed while driving away from the party.
At this point in the conversation, Keefe D looks squarely at us and says, that wasn't us. He knows that we think that he's potentially involved in the Biggie Smalls murder. So when he says that wasn't us, it begs the question, well then what was?
When Keefe D said, that wasn't us, he added to it. But what I do have to tell you is gonna blow your fucking minds.
At this point, we concluded that Keefe D's big bargaining chip was Tupac, not Biggie. People had always suspected that the murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were connected, but now we were certain of it. With Keefe D's confession, we knew that if we could solve one murder, we would likely be able to solve the other.
In their next meeting with Keefe D, he would be forced to tell them exactly what he knew about the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Keefe, today what we're going to do, we're just going to go over with a fine-tooth comb the Las Vegas incidents. We're going to draft up our report as regarding that specific thing. And then we're going to cover a few other things that we do have to emphasize to you that everything in this report has to be right on, because if down the road it's determined that some of these details are incorrect, then everything's off the table. So everything in this report cannot be like that report.
Hey, I want to say this though too. I feel like I said that day, don't bullshit me, and I won't bullshit y'all. You know what I'm saying?
What this ultimately comes down to is how valuable your life is, your family. And when I say your family, I don't mean your extended family. I mean your brothers, and your sisters, and your wife, and your kids. That's it.
Right. Man, well, I feel I can still go to jail with that, dude. Because this is federal.
What is said right here cannot be used against you, Keefe. We also knew that we had to reconcile what Keefe D was telling us now with what he had told the FBI a decade earlier.
Back then, Keefe claimed that after his nephew, Orlando Anderson, was stomped down by Tupac and his entourage, that he had warned Orlando not to retaliate and to just let it go. He had also told the FBI that he believed Suge Knight had killed Tupac because Tupac was planning on leaving Death Row Records. That had been a popular conspiracy theory for years.
There's some people who claim that Orlando Anderson was a pawn of Suge Knight. That he was planted there in the MGM Grand to get beat down, and Suge Knight used him pretty much.
I think it was in Russell Poole, both or Labyrinth or one of those. It's ridiculous also. If he wanted Tupac killed, he could have had him killed. He's surely not going to sit next to him in his car and say, all right, come up beside my car, shoot 9 times in and hope you don't hit me. I'm sitting right next to him.
We could have had him killed anywhere. That we're that smart to have something like that calculated or planned to happen on Vegas Strip after spending $100,000 when you're trying to get a $2 million venture off the ground that Suge had just invested into Club 662. And you know this is one of the most important nights, because this is going to be the night that they're going to say yeah or no to if you're going to get a permit or not. Also, everybody forget, if you needed to control Tupac, what do the government do when they want to control you? They do 2 things. They break you, they institutionalize you. We still had the attorney, David Kenner, handling his appeal, his freedom. But you sure could have made him lose that appeal. You wanted to take all his money, break him down, and then see where he's at 2 or 3 years later after he finishes his tale that he had still right.
When confronted with the fact that he had originally denied having any involvement in the Tupac murder, Keefe D said in his words that was all bullshit.
Or what about that whole bullshit about Tupac? What's that? The whole, oh yeah, that was bullshit.
Next, Keefy D began to fill in the backstory of his association with Puffy Combs. He told us that he had met Puffy in 1993 through a mutual friend, a guy named Eric Zip Martin, who was a New York-based drug dealer.
Where does introduce you to Zip at?
We had a baseball game.
So is it like a high school field? Like a local?
No, that's Park, South Park.
So, okay.
We used to play with like cases of champagne.
Do you know why what brought Zip out here? Because he's originally from New York.
Yeah.
What was he out here for?
He just come out and party and have fun. You know, when he come to LA, he'd come to hang out with me. We go party.
When you're out in New York, is that when you meet Puff out there?
Not doing that. I met him, he gave a party at a little club down in Santa Monica. Paradise.
On 24, Paradise 24 used to be?
Yeah, it was Paradise, yeah. On Santa Monica, Rhode Island. That's where I met, first day I met Puff.
And Zip introduced you to this my boy. What do you introduce him as? This my friend, this my nephew.
That's my boy.
This my boy. They didn't see themselves as relatives or anything like that, like that was his nephew, or is that how he acted towards him?
No, this my boy, this Puff.
Okay.
And after that, they used my car on the video.
Which car was that?
The 64 Chevy.
What color was it?
Wow. Usher video, Puff was driving the car. Usher first song ever, he was in a Laker uniform. And he had the little kids dancing on my car when he got back. It was fucked up. And he paid, get it repaid. Sometimes we met him for the beef game. I think about 3-4 times.
3-4 times, always like a social event.
Yeah. Greenback was mostly that's where we started.
Greenback?
Greenback. From Sunset, on the 11th.
Oh. So Puff on Zip's phone. Zip gives you the phone.
Hey man, you think it's cool to come out there? I'm like, yeah, it's cool, man. You know, just give us like 40, 45, 50 tickets.
So you need no money, no security, nothing like that, just tickets.
He gave us some tickets and I brought the crew. You know, they did.
For his part, Puffy Combs denies having any association with Keefy D or hiring Crips as his security. However, a slew of witnesses confirmed that Puffy Combs and Zip and the Southside Crips were all connected.
Puff had a friend. It was just like somebody that's cool with him and everything like that. And he had a bunch of friends that was Crips and everything. So when I went up,
You remember what this friend's name is?
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Keefy D's childhood friend and fellow Southside Crip, Terrence Brown, also confirmed that Puffy, Zip, and Keefy D all knew each other quite well.
He met Puffy through Zip. But everybody knows Zip's from New York when he comes around. So then when this shit happened, oh, he's friend from New York. You know what I'm saying?
Corey Edwards, another Southside Crip friend of Keefy's, also confirmed these connections.
Zip's from New York. He might be involved in the music industry, or
Well, I know you know Puffy and all that.
he doesn't know Puffy. Oh, he knows Biggie.
Yeah, you know, Mike Tyson now, you know.
And Keefy D knows Zip also.
Yeah.
Death Row insider Henry Hen Dog Smith also told police that he had heard that Bad Boy used Southside Crips as security and that Keefy D was the main contact between Bad Boy Records and the Crips.
You think they tried to hire whoever the enemy of Suge?
Likely. I think that these guys probably went to Puffy and said that they can really, they can take care of the situation.
I knew that they were Southside Crips, were affiliated or supplying security services, homeboy security services for the Bad Boy crew when they came inside. You know, they see things coming from a street perspective where they won't do it. And also, they, me as a cop, I'm not gonna go and approach a young lady and say, hey, Tupac or Suge want to holler at you. Well, they'll go do that. I'm not gonna go and walk up to a guy and say, hey, you got some weed on you. Well, they'll go do that.
Even Biggie's cousin, Little Cease, admitted to seeing Keefy D backstage at a Bad Boy concert in Anaheim, along with Puffy's friend from New York, who we now believe was Zip. In fact, that's how Little Cease recognized Keefy D at the Vibe party, because he'd seen him before at the concert in Anaheim.
Did he mention your name, or he just, How do you know you wasn't there?
We saw him at this last show, man. The last show we did out here. So like they was backstage on the show. We did a show at the Anaheim. I was seeing.
Not only did Little C say that this Crip was the same person that he had seen backstage at Bad Boy concerts, but he was able to pick him out of a photo lineup.
How do you guys look?
Well, I saw one of them on that picture you did.
Well, let's get this picture back out then.
You saw one of them guys here?
Yeah.
In the picture? Okay, you saw that guy at number 2 there, huh? Yep. So you saw that guy when you was on the Jonesy tour? Same guy? Same guy. Same dude, right there. Yep. I saw him that night. I know that face. I saw him twice.
That face is Keefy D.
It was a BT tour, BT tour. Where was it at? We went to one in San Diego, went to one in Anaheim, Irvine, then in Vegas. Irvine was summertime.
Puffy's bodyguard, Eugene Deal, also admitted to seeing these guys rolling with Puffy at Bad Boy shows.
You guys were confident that you said were involved with the TUPAC thing. Were there any of the other concerts on that tour other than Las Vegas?
Okay, hold on. They were at a California show. I don't know if it was Irvine or San Diego or whatever like that. But I know I met them first at a California show.
Eugene Deal also confirmed Keefy D's claim that he had seen Puffy handing out 40 to 50 concert tickets to the Southside Crips.
I think he had to go to Vegas. And it was like, it had to be anywhere from 35 to 57 Crips that rolled with him.
And these are all the guys for concerts? Same group of people?
Yeah. So they just roll in, have fun, concert tickets and everything like that. So
Next, we asked Keefy D the $1 million question. On all 4 of those occasions, of San Diego, Anaheim, Irvine, and Vegas, which ones do you actually talk to Puffy at?
Every one.
Every one of them. Which of those 4 is it when you talk to him about murdering Tupac?
It was really about both of them. Either one. It was
Tupac and Suge, I mean.
Anaheim.
After a concert in Anaheim, Keefy D claims that he attended a party with Puffy in a hotel suite. So it's Pharrell, you, Puffy, Zip, and a bunch of Southsiders. And what Puffy makes kind of an announcement?
Yeah, that was stupid as hell too, you know.
What did you actually hear? What was the words? The best you can remember what he says.
Shit, he said he'd give us anything for them dudes there, you know? Yeah.
He'll give me anything for these guys' head.
Yeah, he said it in front of all the people, I couldn't believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. All one full of friends.
So this is after Jake got killed. So he was on point. He was worried about something happening.
Yeah.
So he got mouthed off about a bunch of different stuff. So he was scared.
He was scared to death, yeah.
Okay. We were a bit taken back by this information. These are very bold claims being made against a very powerful person. It was not something that we took lightly. Claims like these need to be corroborated on multiple levels. Yeah, you know as soon as it goes up the chain of command, they're going to squash the case. Because nobody wants to do business at that level. Because it's just lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits. A few months later, at Greenblatt's Deli, Keefy D claimed that Puffy Combs furthered the solicitation. What happened that made it something other than just him frustrated and boasting? Man, I don't give you guys anything. I mean, what made it a specific, like, hey, I'm serious, I want you guys to kill these guys?
Well, he told me the greenback.
How's it go? How's the conversation go? I mean, okay, listen, I'll do it, but I need $500,000, or, you know, I've got somebody who will do it, but I need $300,000. I mean, we need really specific details regarding that.
Yeah, we wanted the building.
You said you walked downstairs. Did he say come with me downstairs?
Yeah, he said come on downstairs and talk.
He tells you seriously, man, I need to get rid of these guys. And he's looking at you in the eyes and he's like scared.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, the specific reason he asked you to come downstairs and talk to him was about that thing, not about liquor or anything. It was about that. Okay.
You tell him we'll do it for $1 million, and he's like, okay, I'll do it for $1 million. He agrees and shake on him or something like that.
Yeah.
What happened?
Gentlemen, he like, man, we'll wipe their ass out quick, you know, nothing.
brought up the amount of $1 million?
Shit, he did.
Puffy did?
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't you?
No, it wasn't me, I'm shit. I'm doing it, I think, shit, they put 50. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
So he brought up the $1 million.
Yeah. Them project dudes will kill your ass for 1,500. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
If Keefe D is to be believed, this second solicitation for murder is more serious than the first that could have been discounted as boasting, because now he takes Keefe D aside to have a private conversation to discuss this matter. All the other things Keefe D told us, we could corroborate with other witnesses, but this particular matter just leaves Keefe and Puffy alone. The one piece of corroborating evidence that we did have came in the form of a witness statement from a Southside Crip informant who had advised the police that there was a standing $1 million contract between Bad Boy Records and the Southside Crips. Chuck Phillips wrote this article based on this clue. And he writes this article in the LA Times saying, hey, there's a $1 million bounty put out by Biggie Smalls. But the truth was, that clue said Puffy Combs 10 years before Keefe D ever brought it up.
This is what Keefe D says happened the weekend of Tupac's murder. The day before the Mike Tyson fight, Keefe D eats at Greenblatt's Deli. He then caravans to Las Vegas with his crew, including Zip Martin. Zip is driving his Mercedes, while Keefe goes out in a rented Buick Century.
On Saturday, the day of the fight, Keefe D's nephew Orlando Anderson, along with his friends Terrence Brown and DeAndre Smith, all drive out to Las Vegas to meet up with Keefe D. Guess what they're driving? A white Cadillac.
They came up, I remember it was a white Cadillac. And the Lord's like, that was Tupac, that was Tupac. No, he got shot, no, he got shot.
Who's driving the Cadillac?
When they come to the next day.
They came up Saturday?
Yeah.
Was that a rented Cadillac?
Yeah.
Who rented that Cadillac?
T. Brown.
Yeah, T. Brown.
His mom, right?
Mother.
After the Tyson fight, Keefe D hooks up with Zip and they go to dinner.
Unbeknownst to them, Keefe's nephew, Orlando Anderson, has just been attacked by Tupac, Suge Knight, and their entourage. In the epitome of bad timing, Tupac Shakur has just attacked the nephew of the individual who claims to have been hired to kill him.
Unlike in his interview with the FBI in the late 1990s, where he had claimed that after Orlando Anderson was beat up, he just simply tried to calm him down, now he told us that they immediately planned a retaliation.
We went to eat. We was eating. They came and said, "You beat up, man?" And we was at a hotel. Yeah. At the MGM and the restaurant. There was a few New Yorkers though, with Zip. Like, man, y'all need some help. We got this.
That's what they said? You guys aren't out in Vegas then with that intention. That's not why you're in Vegas.
No, we've been going to the fight since Pat days, you know, the 80s.
So y'all geared up to go to Vegas, and y'all was going anyway. Not even knowing who else was going to be down there. Not knowing this kid, Poppy, shit was going to
We
be
didn't
down
have no pistol. We didn't have no pistol down there, and
Zip, who knows about Puffy's offer to Keefe, says this is a good time to take care of that thing.
shit, it was right there. It's a perfect opportunity, baby.
That was Zip talking?
Yeah.
Because of what happened with
Yeah.
Zip offers Keefe D the .40 caliber Glock that he has stashed in his Mercedes out in the parking lot.
He told me in the lobby that he had some Jimmy.
Someone
had a Jimmy. That big ass. He had a little secret compartment. Thing popped out. Popped up. Popped off.
In the armrest?
Yeah.
Backing up Keefe's story, we had a cooperating witness who was present at the MGM that night after Orlando Anderson was beat down. He testifies to the fact that he sees Orlando Anderson bleeding from the head, and he sees the group get together to start to plan the retaliation. In fact, he heard one guy say, "Fuck that shit. What Tupac think this is? We gangbang out here." The witness also confirms that he overheard Zip say, "We have artillery out here," meaning guns. You tell us if they were gonna go handle this shit or whatever?
Yeah, they act like, y'all want us to come? You know what them motherfuckers at? They was telling us that they gonna be at the 662 club.
Who was that?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Another notable person who had something to say about the incident was Jada Pinkett Smith. Now I hope we can get some real answers and have some closure. R.I.P. Pac.
Okay, then you jump out of the car, and then what happens?
I was driving the van with the busters. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so Lane Cadillac with T Brown and Dre.
Yeah.
Y'all go with the van. It's 2 cars go to 662.
Yeah, the van and the Cadillac.
Keefe D. Orlando Anderson and half a dozen of the other Crip gang members get into 2 vehicles and drive directly to the 662 Club, where Tupac Shakur is expected to be performing later that night. They park in the parking lot, anticipating Tupac's arrival, and simply lie in wait for him.
They didn't show up. We waited about 15, 20 minutes. They didn't show up. So it's like, let's go get some liquor. And Corey, they're gonna kill us, dog. You know that motherfucker? You know, let the police kill them motherfuckers and all that. Man, you crazy. Stopped at the liquor store. I got out the van with their ass and jumped in the cab.
Tupac was locked up in a Michigan jail for 10.
According to Keefe D, some of the guys are getting nervous, so he jumps in the Cadillac with 3 other guys and decides to handle it on their own.
The Cadillac is being driven by Terrence Brown. In the front passenger seat is Keefe D. Behind the driver is DeAndre Smith. And in the right rear passenger seat is Keefe's nephew, Orlando Anderson. In addition to Keefe D's statement, we had other evidence confirming that the 4 people he said were in the Cadillac were in fact in Vegas that weekend. Orlando Anderson, of course, was on tape at the MGM, and Keefe D, his uncle, admitted to being there. T. Brown, however, for his part, denied that he was in Vegas that weekend.
Don't tell me that you didn't go to Las Vegas. What you're gonna tell me there is who you went there with and where to stay. Go to Las Vegas.
However, he was arrested less than a month later with Las Vegas postcards in his possession, and DeAndre Smith confirmed that both he and Brown were in Vegas the night Tupac was shot. With Keefe D and his crew ready to do this, they set out to find Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur.
On bike patrol that night, he's the man who heard Tupac's last words. Our Kelsey McFarland is in studio with his reaction to the latest search warrant served at a Henderson home. Kelsey.
Abel Carroll told me he was shocked when he...
Tupac and Suge Knight are what drew their attention to the BMW. They're screaming out his name, Tupac, Tupac.
Like, you should. Like, he was like, come on, come go with us. We the one that did this too.
There you go. They did U-turn. We wasn't supposed to make it. Just wanted to U-turn. It was in the middle lane. We just pulled up on the side to check every car to see where they was.
So what directed your attention to him was some girl shouting at Tupac?
Tupac! He gave himself away. Otherwise, they would have gone away.
Due to traffic conditions and the configuration of Suge and Tupac's caravan, the white Cadillac is forced to pull up on the right side of their BMW.
I thought they were going to pull on my side. You know, that's one of them there. I'm going to just out with him. You know, he pulled on their side.
So you were fitting the glass to do that too, or you were just...
Yeah, we would have been on my side all the time.
Okay. Keefe D, who is seated in the right front passenger seat of the white Cadillac and who has the gun, realizes that he's not going to be in a position to shoot because he's going to have to shoot across the car and across the face of his driver. Keefe D turns around to hand the gun to the back seat, attempting to give it to DeAndre Smith, who would be in the best position to shoot. DeAndre resists, puts his hand up and says, "Nah, no thanks, not me."
I gave it to Dre. Dre was like, no. And Lane's like, dude, fuck you.
Orlando Anderson, who's in the right rear passenger, reaches forward and says, "Give me that motherfucker." Leans over DeAndre Smith out the back window of the Cadillac and begins shooting rapidly into the BMW.
So Orlando shot him across the grave.
And he leaned over on the window for on the roof, pop.
So Orlando would have had to lean over the top of Dre, right?
Yeah.
You say Suge looks over, he sees you?
Yeah.
He looks right at you?
Yeah.
Are you together?
I
Backing up Keefe D's claim that he and Knight knew each other was a witness who was in Las Vegas, part of the death row entourage, who was present during the shooting of Tupac Shakur, who said that Knight stated he knew who the shooters were and that they were Southside Crips.
I seen the police going to shoot again. I thought he was dead.
So Tupac's trying to jump in the back seat. And what Suge doing? Jumping.
He couldn't really jump because he was too big. Yeah.
Keefe D has now identified his own nephew as the murderer of Tupac Shakur.
Bolstering Keefe D's claim was an informant in 1997 who told investigators that Puffy had hired the Southside Crips to kill both Suge and Tupac, and that the Crip who was jumped at the MGM was in the group that had done the hit, and that they originally were going to do it at Suge's Vegas nightclub, but then decided to do it right away instead of waiting. This was exactly the same story that Keefe D told us a decade later. Very few people know that immediately after Tupac is shot and that white Cadillac is fleeing, one of the death row entourage, a guy named Alton McDonald, known as Buntry, chases after the Cadillac, and a second shooting takes place between the two vehicles. Alton McDonald's car is struck. In fact, within the Las Vegas murder files, there's a document that indicates that Alton McDonald's car had been struck by a bullet that night. As a result, Alton McDonald gives up the chase and the white Cadillac disappears into the night. This also counters the claim that Suge had set up the Tupac murder. Why would Suge's main enforcer chase after the suspect's vehicle and exchange gunfire if they are all part of the same conspiracy? For his part, Keefe D affirms in his interview that a second shooting does take place. However, he misidentifies the car that's following them as the girls in the green Sebring.
They made the right in some fraud in Sebring and follow. Stupid bitches.
Somebody started shooting this way, they're shooting that way. So we're in the midst of all of this gunfire, and only thing we can think of is get out of there.
Lane starts blasting back on?
Yeah.
So he had bullets left?
Yeah.
Afterwards, when you guys are rolling.
I went to park the car by the carriage house. There's a parking lot on the opposite side of the carriage house. Left the car in and put the gun on the tire and left.
On the tire, front wheel tire, back tire, what?
Front.
After y'all left the gun on the tire, where'd you guys go?
We smoke weed and drink.
Where?
Well, it's no different party.
Coincidentally, Suge Knight's BMW had come to a stop on Las Vegas Boulevard near Harmon, which is only about a block from where the shooters had ditched the Cadillac.
They pulled up in the avalanche while we stand on that there. Take our bullshit.
You guys on the street with
We on Las Vegas Boulevard, the crosswalk, and they pull up down now right next to us.
with him in the car already?
Tupac and Suge in the car.
Yeah,
It's close.
Did they see you?
Well, you can see, we didn't give a fuck. We didn't the ambulance park right here. Right next to it. That shit was funny as a motherfucker. I ain't ever told nobody that story.
The following day, they return to the Cadillac, recover the murder weapon, and ensure that there are no discarded casings left inside the vehicle. Then Keefe D and the rest of the Crips return to Los Angeles.
After Tupac was shot, the New Yorkers went home and told Puffy's bodyguard Eugene Deal exactly what had happened in Las Vegas. In his police interview, he got all the details right.
It was Zip, Daddy, and some other people I know from New York. They were in Vegas the night Pop got killed. You know what I'm saying? They're around the same crib that rolled with us to Vegas that time. And Pop seen them. And Pop stepped to them and said, those are those marked-ass niggas that be fucking with them niggas from New York. That's what was said.
Now, were you there for this?
No, I wasn't there for this.
You were told this.
I was told that's why I said it was pretty hearsay. And one of the kids had ripped off one of Pac's friends, you know, a long time ago or something like that. You know, like I said, this fight group broke out. You know what I'm saying? And that's how that incident happened. And one of the kids called his uncle, who was ahead, one of the head guys in Compton and stuff like that. And next thing you know, Pac was shot up.
We also found an informant who was a Southside Crip and associate of all of these guys who confirmed Keefe D's story.
Who was in Las Vegas that you know on that deal, on that night that Tupac was killed?
Lando, Keith, T. Brown, Drake.
More importantly, this informant claimed that he had personally seen Orlando Anderson and DeAndre Smith in a white Cadillac in Compton the day after Tupac was shot, and that DeAndre, not Orlando, had bragged about shooting Tupac.
Dre and Orlando, they came back bragging about what happened out there. He seen Tupac and Big Suge, I think, in a BMW. He said he let off on him.
Man, I let off on Tupac.
Dre said he himself let off on him. What did let off on him mean?
Shooting a person. Like it was a big old joke or something. Like it was a big joke. You can tell when a person's nervous. They was nervous when they got back talking. You know, you can tell they had nervousness. You know?
The informant also confirmed what Keefe D had said about the Cadillac being a rental car.
Yeah, that was a rental car they had.
Well, how'd you know that Cadillac was a rental car?
Because every time they go to Vegas, they get a rental car. They get a rental car because if you're going out of town and the police ever find something in there, it's a rental car. They can't really put it on there. If you see Keith right now, 9 guys out of 10, he in a rental car right now.
Who besides yourself down there knows, for one, knows about these guys killing Tupac?
Shit, pretty sure everybody around them knows about it.
We now had evidence that pointed to Orlando Anderson as the killer of Tupac Shakur. With the benefit of hindsight, it now seemed obvious. If, prior to our interviews with Keefe D in late 2008, I'd been asked to put together a list of the most likely suspects, he'd have been at the top of the list. Knowing that didn't make us great detectives, it was just common sense.
I had a person I was talking to who told me that she was related to Orlando Anderson, and she told me that at family gathering, Orlando Anderson would brag about killing Tupac.
Orlando was so committed to boasting about the shooting of Tupac that even his uncle Keefe D had to scold him and tell him to keep his mouth shut and quit talking about it. But instead, Orlando Anderson goes on CNN with his attorney.
I mean, I've been thinking, maybe I'm an scapegoat or something. I just want to let everybody know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do it.
Immediately after the murder of Tupac Shakur, Compton police knew that Orlando Anderson was involved. They knew this because of their confidential informants, Southside Crip informants who were telling them so. In fact, they conducted search warrants and even arrested Orlando Anderson. Unfortunately, though, for Las Vegas police, there wasn't enough evidence for prosecution. Orlando Anderson lawyered up, and everything else was just circumstantial, not enough to get a criminal filing.
There was one more piece of evidence tying Orlando Anderson to this case that shocked the task force when they discovered it. Going back to the murder of Suge's friend and bodyguard, Jake Robles, at the nightclub in Atlanta, the incident that took the feud between Death Row and Bad Boy to the next level, they found an interview that Russell Poole had conducted with a nightclub security guard, who was an off-duty Atlanta police officer named Deputy Howard. In this interview from 1997, they showed Howard the MGM Grand security video of Orlando Anderson and a photo of Keefe's friend, Corey Edwards. Deputy Howard was absolutely positive that both Orlando Anderson and Corey Edwards were at the club, and that they were among the suspects in the Robles shooting.
Deputy Howard also stated that the altercation that took place inside of the club was between Robles and Suge and a guy in a powder blue jacket. At one point, Suge told the guy in the blue jacket, "I know your family. I know your mama. I know your family." He also told Robles after he was shot, "Hush, I'll take care of this when we get back on our own turf." Now, why would Suge Knight say, "I know your family," or that we can take care of this when we get back to Los Angeles, to a person that was a member of Bad Boy from New York City? Making the connection for us, Deputy Howard confirmed that the person that was in the powder blue jacket was none other than Orlando Anderson.
Within a month of returning from Las Vegas after the TUPAC murder, Suge Knight is arrested for a parole violation for his participation in the stomp down of Orlando Anderson.
Desperate to get himself out of his predicament, Suge Knight then offers Orlando Anderson upwards of $16,000 to testify on his behalf that he wasn't actually attempting to assault Orlando, but was trying to help him. So Orlando Anderson, who has just shot and killed Tupac Shakur and struck Suge Knight in that hail of gunfire, is now being summoned and solicited by Knight himself to perjure himself on Knight's behalf in court.
The mindset of doing business with him was to try to stop him from doing 9 years and keeping the fall of death row from happening.
Keefe D accompanied Orlando Anderson to the attorney's office when this deal was made. He wasn't happy about it. He thought that Orlando Anderson was selling out. Some might wonder, well, why didn't Suge go after Keefe D and kill him? But there were a lot of variables and a lot at play here. Suge Knight was now in jail and was going to be serving the better part of 8 years. While he's in jail, Keefe D then goes to jail. Suge Knight also knows that Keefe D wasn't the actual shooter, that it was his nephew, Orlando Anderson. All of those things come into play in the weird dynamics of the gang life.
Keefe D claims that after returning to LA following Tupac's murder, he meets with Zip at a hot wing spot near Hollywood.
Okay, so you get back to LA the next day, Zip calls you, says, meet you at the hot wing place. Where at? You guys go over there, Zip shows up, you guys, what happens after? What's the conversation with you and Zip?
Folks kept on calling, was that us? He told me, yeah, it was a fake call. Said, we go get our little money. So, all right, I'm gonna go back out there.
Okay, so Puff calls Zip and says, was that us? Faith calls Zip and says, was that us?
What you talking about too? Yeah.
When you're at the hot wing place talking to Zip,
He calls.
on Zip's phone or your phone?
No, Zip phone.
And Zip gives you the phone?
Yeah. Zip was it, was that us? Zip was like, yeah, that's us.
And what's his response?
He was happy as hell, shit.
And you asking everybody's money? What's your money when you pay or whatever?
No. Say that was wrong. Zip go get our cash.
Okay, so you tell Zip we need to get paid. What does Zip say? Go back home?
Yeah, I'll get back with them.
Approximately 6 weeks later, Keefe D hasn't been paid yet, so he meets with Zip to ask about the money. Zip tells him that he hasn't received the money from Puffy yet. Since you've been out of prison, have you talked to Zip?
Not a long time.
And what about Puffy?
Not one time.
Okay.
I tried to call him several times, you know. That little daddy out here.
You got messages?
Hell yeah.
Keefe D claimed to have run into an associate of Puffy's named Darius D. Mac Rogers. According to Keefe, D. Mac claimed that Puffy had given Zip $500,000, but that Zip had never forwarded that money to Keefe.
Like, man, call your boy, you like, man, what's that still, man? Where's Zip on that shit? Zip got that money. I'm like, what? He like, yeah, man, dude, man, Zip the money.
Puffy and Zip fall out. Right?
I'm making the payments to Zip.
Zip keep the money.
Zip kept the money.
And he gives bail to Big Guy.
Yeah, all that.
Was Biggie ever involved in any of these conversations about his
No.
It was always just Puff stuff and Zip. What he do about it? I mean, it's like whatever. He was on thing.
He was like doing his own thing. Last kind of kept him kind of
Out the way.
yeah.
So this is all Puffy doing.
Yeah. I think if he would have just gave us half the money, you know what I'm saying? I would stay strong like fuck.
As part of our investigative strategy, our next step was to use Keefe D against Zip the same way that we had used Hammond against Keefe D, essentially as an informant, in which we could use Keefe D against Zip and set him up in a sting operation. Using our federal funding and resources, on June 17th of 2008, we escorted Keefe D back to New York. We had identified the nightclub that Zip owned. called the Zip Code in Harlem. We waited until the opportunity presented itself to introduce Keefe back to Zip. On the second attempt, we succeed. Zip shows up at the club, Keefe D's there, and the two of them unite after many years. After some small talk and reacquainting themselves with one another, Keefe suggests that they resurrect their prior drug relationship. Zip says, listen, I've got cancer, I'm struggling, I'm too old for this. However, let me introduce you to my nephew. He's in a position to help you out. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, this nephew of Zip's is actually a lieutenant in Zip's narcotic organization. We believe that Zip is merely testing Keefe D to see what his true intentions are.
Zip's no amateur at this game. He's going to be harder to set up than Keefe D was. With the TUPAC investigation making good progress, the task force still had to focus on their original goal of solving the Biggie Smalls murder, which they had been investigating simultaneously. After disproving Russell Poole's David Mack theory, and now rolling out Keefe D and the Crips as Biggie's killers, they were left with one prevailing theory, that Suge Knight had members of the Mob Piru Bloods murder Biggie Smalls. With Tupac dead and Suge Knight in prison for his parole violation, Death Row Records began to crumble. On top of that, bodies had started falling. In 1997, one of Suge's bodyguards, Aaron Heron Palmer, was gunned down at a Compton stoplight.
Another bodyguard of Suge's, Alton Buntry McDonald, and death row employee Henry Hen-Dog Smith had also been killed. McDonald and his passenger Neckbone were the ones who had exchanged gunfire with Tupac's killer in Vegas, and Hen-Dog was the one who had designed the Death Row logo.
In 2003, Suge Knight's close friend and confidant, Wardell Poochie Fouts, was shot 10 times in the back and killed while riding his motorcycle through Compton.
In 2005, Suge Knight lost a $107 million lawsuit to a man named Harry O, who had vested startup money in Death Row Records. This and a huge IRS bill led to Suge Knight filing for bankruptcy. Suffice it to say, by the time we caught up with Suge Knight, he had lost Death Row Records and was a shadow of his former self.
The task force learned that the FBI had launched a racketeering investigation into Death Row back in the 90s, but had ultimately abandoned it. They decided to resurrect that case, hoping to find witnesses who would flip against Suge.
Unfortunately, the racketeering case went nowhere, but it would lead to the one witness that would break the case open.
In 1996, prior to Tupac's murder, Suge Knight had commissioned for a 1961 Chevy Impala to be customized as a gift for Tupac. The cover art for Tupac's album, All Eyes on Me, was airbrushed across the trunk. Unfortunately, Tupac didn't live long enough to receive the gift. After changing hands several times, the Impala ended up in front of a body shop in El Monte, California. Supposedly, Suge found out about it, and some of his associates went to the body shop to pressure the owner into giving it back. After locating the Impala at a Long Beach pawn shop, the task force discovered that the person who had taken it there was one of Suge Knight's longtime girlfriends.
Suge's most trusted girlfriend, who we're going to refer to under the alias of Teresa Swan, was the mother of one of his children. She was also criminally complicit in some of Suge's nefarious business activities. Teresa Swan had a long history of fraud and perjury with a half a dozen fake identities. Our big break with Teresa Swan came when her name came up in the middle of an auto theft ring where the thieves were using fraudulent loan applications to purchase vehicles and then in turn selling them at a discount price. In addition to the evidence of her involvement in this auto theft ring, we discovered that she was involved in Suge Knight's bankruptcy fraud. So we now had two very serious things to hold over her head. We're about to ask Teresa Swan to do something against her every instinct. Drop the dime on Suge Knight.
On March 17th of 2009, the task force had its first meeting with Teresa Swan at a Starbucks in Santa Fe Springs.
To evaluate the initial extent of her cooperation and what she was willing to tell us, we decided to focus on the subjects of the auto theft investigation and the bankruptcy fraud. In fact, we brought with us an IRS agent to further that deception. We outlined what she was facing in those charges, and she responded, "Listen, you've got to understand, I only did what you told me. That's all I ever did. I got kids. I got to look out for them." Since that first meeting went relatively well, we arranged a second meeting with Teresa Swan at another Starbucks in Pasadena. This time we got down to brass tacks. My homicide partner, Darren Dupree, asked Teresa, "Do you know why we're really here? Do you know why we're really here?" And I told her, "We're homicide detectives. We want to know who killed Biggie Smalls." Now she begins sobbing. So Darren and I excuse ourselves from the table momentarily, leaving her alone with an FBI agent working the case with us. He walks over to us a few minutes later with an ear-to-ear smile, saying she knows. With that, we knew that a Starbucks was not the setting for full disclosure. So we elected to set up another meeting under more stringent circumstances at the DEA headquarters.
In preparation for the
Shit. Sound like Suge. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Sound like Suge know a lot more than what he letting on. So now, man, make sure this Lawyer Moves. Make sure y'all, man, subscribe to the channel. Hit them likes. Hit them dislikes. Make your comments on things that you feel as though you don't understand or what you want to say. We're talking about Tupac, Biggie Smalls murder, and Eazy-E. Now, the Tupac and Biggie Smalls and Eazy-E, all of it's connected. Now let's get it together. Let's get this together. Now, Tupac, Suge Knight, Biggie Smalls, Puffy, all know Keefy D. Ain't that something? Suge Knight went to school with Keefy D. We heard a lot of things, man. Suge Knight went to school with Keefy D. Was friends with him. They had no problems. Suge Knight said he's not testifying against Keefy D. Everybody saying, well, Suge Knight not testifying because, I mean, he on some gangster shit. He ain't snitching, right? What would be the only reason other than that snitching? The next reason would be he friends with Keefy D. It was all in play. You know, you heard motherfucking Tupac talking about Dr. Dre and how he ain't been making beats and how he ain't been doing this and how he ain't been doing that and he gay and he sucking and everything. Puff on the same note. Puff is same thing as Eazy-E said about Dre. Ice Cube said about Dre. Everybody said Dre was gay. Now, there's the same thing with Puff. Now, Keefy D knows Suge Knight. They played football together. That's what he said. They friends. I know your family. It's just a coincidence that Keefe D and Suge Knight went to school and they know family and everything. They close. They close. This sound like a whole merry-go-round of a setup. If Keefe D knew Suge and Keefe D knew Pop and Keefe D knew Puff. I mean, I ain't mean to say he knew Pop, but he knew Puff. Yeah, he knew Puff and Suge. So he knew Puff and Suge. Let's get this together. He knew Pop. No, he knew Puff and Suge. He went to school with Suge. Suge know his whole family. Okay, so then he knows Puff. Let's try to sum this up. He knows Puff and he knows Suge. Suge said on a Carson Nice show, he said that, man, you don't have to kill nobody by shooting them. You don't have to kill nobody by shooting them. You can shoot them with a needle, an AIDS needle, take bloods from a AIDS patient and shoot the person with a needle. Why would he say that? Why would he say that, huh? Let's see. Let's check it out. Why would he say shoot somebody up with a needle? Let's see what's going on, man. He said shoot the man up with a needle. First, we're gonna go into this one. I want you to hear this one. Shoot him up with a needle, huh? Remember again, Suge.
Convicted former music executive Suge Knight is surprised that officers made an arrest in the Tupac Shakur murder, but he refuses to testify against the suspect. That officers made an arrest in the he refuses to testify against the suspect, Keefe D, that is. Knight talked exclusively with TMZ about the case. He was also shot that night. Tupac was killed in the drive-by in Las Vegas in September 1996. Even though he's an eyewitness, Knight says he's no rat.
First and foremost, me and Keefe D played on the same Pop Warner football team. And whatever the circumstances, if he had an involvement with anything, if he didn't have any involvement with anything, who want to see? I wouldn't wish somebody going to prison on my work.
See, he say, me and Keefy D played football together. Me and Keefy D played football together. I wasn't worse jail on my worst enemy. Now I can understand you not wishing jail on nobody. You know, you don't want to testify on them to go to jail. Yeah, I get that. But it's just odd. You know what I'm saying? It's odd because yeah, I mean, you could take it as him saying that he don't want to go to jail because he on some gangster shit. Yeah, but it is something more to the situation, man. You protecting the killer. Basically, you protecting the killer. You protecting the killer. You even protecting. You got shot in the head. I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to figure this one out. People don't understand that the man said out his own mouth. He said out his own mouth. He said,
the upper Midwest, we are looking at freeze warnings for Fargo, also Duluth. We're looking at frost advisories. That's in that light pink color. 26 million people under freeze alerts this morning. And we're looking at some chilly air later on this afternoon.
now he said what he said. Let's go to that first. Let's get that first. Let's get that out the way first. Now,
You seem like a great guy. Yeah. And the thing about all this, right? It's real simple. You know, man, I love your show. I like what you're doing. Brilliant. Right? That's why I'm here. Fresh out of jail, I'll come check you out, right?
Right.
Why am I bulletproof vest?
Oh, it's not. Oh no, that's just it's your style. You've been in the can for a while. That's what all the talk show hosts are wearing.
This is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
See, if somebody gonna do something about it, see, technology is so high, right?
Right.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. So the kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And they shoot you with it.
Oh, so that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And they shoot you with it.
Oh, so that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no.
People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And they shoot you with it.
Oh, so that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no.
People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And they shoot you with it.
Oh, so that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no.
see what I mean? No remorse about that. You don't give a fuck about that. He said that shit like, hey, that's an easy thing. And laughed about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't give a fuck. That's an easy thing. That's terrible.
They got this stuff they call, they get blood from somebody with AIDS.
Yeah.
And they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
that
that's
seems
what
bad.
happens. That's
Yeah.
a slow death.
Yeah.
An easy thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Way to lighten the mood.
Wow. Well, Shug's terror alert level just went.
You see what I'm saying? That's an easy thing, right?
First time I met Suge Knight was at a restaurant in LA called Palm Restaurant. And I was sitting there eating, nice meal, and all of a sudden these huge guys who like a football team showed up. You know, it was very intimidating to see these guys. They were bigger than my bodyguard, you know, and a bunch of them. And they pretty much grabbed my bodyguard, pulled him out, and sat down next to me right there and started talking to me. How you doing? Uninvited. Totally uninvited. I didn't even know him. See him again? Sure did. Saw him again a few months later. He did the same thing. Just kind of showed up to me, said hi, and then left. Still thinking, well, wow, this guy knows where I'm at all times. How does he know where I'm at? You know? What's going on here?
Knight told us, before he knew we had talked with Van Winkle, that it was all very friendly.
He agreed to everything. It wasn't a problem. And
Wait, he agreed to everything?
I mean, you know, he said the guy with the song. He didn't have a problem with it. He said,
That's not what he says at all.
I had my bodyguards who had guns, and they had their people which had guns, and they had us outpowered and outnumbered.
Talking publicly about it for the first time, Van Winkle describes a terrifying night in his suite at a Beverly Hills hotel when he says Suge Knight showed up with 6 other men.
Roughed one of my bodyguards up. They roughed everybody else and my whole entourage up. Suge took me out on the balcony, started talking to me personally.
On the balcony?
On the balcony.
High above?
Like 15 floors. He had me look over the edge, show me how high I was up there.
You scared?